California's Monterey Peninsula and coastline have long been a dream destination for tourists around the globe. Just a few miles inland, Laguna Seca Raceway entices with legendary corners like the Corkscrew and has become a dream destination for sports car racing fans. And since 2017, the Ferrari Challenge Series, a championship where dreams can come true, has forged a connection to this storied venue, unleashing the speed and beauty of all things Ferrari during its annual visits. And so it is for 2020, as Ferrari Challenge North America returns for the 5th round of the Championship Series. Hi everybody and welcome to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. I am Greg Creamer, joined for the weekend by Katie Osborne, and we are gearing up for the second of 2 races. Each of these events has doubleheader in the format. We had races yesterday, qualifying as well. This morning we qualified again, and we are queuing up for race number 2 of the weekend for the Trofeo Pirelli, the Trofeo Pirelli Am, and Coppa Shell categories, and on a great venue. And look at the ones we've been at already. Daytona in January, Road Atlanta, Indianapolis, Circuit of the Americas, Laguna this weekend, Sebring in mid-October, and then the Finale Mondiale in Misano, Italy in early November to wrap up the championship series. What a schedule. One of the reasons that these drivers and participants just love this series. If you're not familiar with where WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is, it's on the west coast, just north of the legendary Big Sur coastline, just south of the San Francisco Bay Area, in an absolutely beautiful part of the country. And the track is literally carved into the hills that run around a dry lake bed in what used to be the Fort Ord Military Targeting Range. It's just about 2¼ miles, 11 turns, and some key corners. The big hairpin, the Andretti hairpin, bottom center of the screen, that's turn 5. Hugely important. You climb all the way up through that angular turn 6 to the top of the hill in the Corkscrew. Momentum, important to carry all the way up. And then in the Corkscrew, you fall 6 stories of distance just in the first 2 sections of that, then another 4 stories through the rainy curve, and then down into a good overtaking area, turn 11, that tight final corner that leads you back on to the start line. This track is known as being technical and very slippery. It doesn't have much grip in general. And then you add the sand that can blow up from that dry lake bed, and that changes things. You can see the air temperature right now, it's offered in centigrade, but a little bit warmer than we saw yesterday. And so these Pirelli P0 tires will come up to temp just a bit quicker, and they can get even racier. And we saw people being pretty racy right from the start yesterday. So there are going to be some certain challenges for these drivers to deal with. But that, after all, is why they're here. And, of course, we've got somebody here who's been down gathering little bits of stories and great information. So welcome, Katie Osborne. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Greg. And as you said, this track has been extremely slippery for these drivers. Talking about the Coppa Shell class, one guy in particular, Brad Horseman, has been really working on trying to make sure that he controls the car. And actually, during round 9, he told me that he had been really working on corner entry. He is sitting on pole today. And it turns out after that, he said he was extremely pleased with his performance and feels that he's really figuring it out. Real quick, taking it back to last year, there were 3 guys in the Coppa Shell M class who were really tearing it down for a championship. That was Brad Horseman, that was Eric Marston, and Jay Strideman. Well, one of those gentlemen have joined the trio again this weekend, but it was his first time in the Evo, and he has shown that he's done a pretty good job sitting on second in the grid. Getting comfortable in Laguna Seca is not something that's easy to do, especially if you haven't driven the car that you're driving around the track. Eric Marston, that's the case for you. You ended up in round 9, qualifying 5th, finishing 5th. Today, you're starting on the grid in 2nd. Yeah. What's interesting, though, your story begins just a few short weeks ago with this car.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the last round I actually did was at Mugello last year, and then I wasn't going to do the first 2 races, and then COVID kind of messed everything else up. So I'm just so happy to be on track, and I love the new car. The new car really is a new car. It's hard to believe it's the same car. It feels amazing, and yeah, I'm feeling good. I love this track.
An impressive start, if you will, to getting back in the car here with a finish of 5th. But now you're starting in 2nd. What did you learn in the race yesterday that you can take into round 10 here today?
You know, just where I can push more, you know, where you can push the braking points just a little bit more, where you can roll a little bit more speed, all the little things that make a huge difference in racing, right? So
And those little things for you, I mean, is there anything that you're fine-tuning now? Not only just getting comfortable behind the wheel, but around a track like Laguna Seca, is there anything where there's a place where you're like, hey, that's my focus point?
Still always constantly focusing on more rolling speed through 3, 4, pushing my braking point a little more in 5. 6 I've got down pretty good. I'm as fast as Cooper through 6.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But then the corkscrew, you know, he is so fast coming out of the exit of that, but still trying, working. Yeah,
Wow.
and then the rest of it, you know, you're always just pushing little, trying to get a little more speed.
A driver's mindset, always trying to find a little bit of speed. Best of luck out there and be safe as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Katie. And the key thing that Eric is alluding to is when he said you're always pushing a little bit, you don't want to try and take too big a chunk because that's when you can throw it off the track. So you just gradually work at it. And with the amazing coaching system that's part of Ferrari Challenge North America, under the watchful eyes of head coach Didier Tays, that's what you're taught. You're taught how to sneak up on the speed and be able to get there. And if you want to see what kind of speed they run here, well, we have a fabulous lap from behind the wheel for you by one of the top competitors in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Dave Musial, car number 30 in a Trofeo Pirelli AM class here at the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Hi, this is Dave Musial here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. We're going to be coming down the front straightaway, heading underneath the bridge towards the center of it. We're going to let the car track out a little bit to the right, hitting about 145 miles per hour. We're going to brake heavy, turn in, catch that apex, be patient, get back on the power hard here. Heading into turn 3, we're going to want to make sure that we take all of the track, use it, get back on the power, upshift to 4th gear. About the 2 marker, we're going to brake, turn in again, get back on the power. You got to be careful here, it's tight. Now we're heading underneath the red bridge here. We're going to brake, downshift, catch the apex, stand on the power, don't go off track, use it all. Close. Heading for turn 6, underneath the bridge, downshift, turn in, off the power, back on the power, use all the track. Now we're heading back up to the famous corkscrew. You gotta line the car up correctly, look to the right, brake, wait, patience, slight left, hard right, back on the power, hold the car, let it track out, power, lift, shift, catch the apex, let the car track out all the way to the right. Now you got to get ready for this. Quick hands, slow turn in. Let the car track out. About the 3 board here, we're going to hit the brakes as hard as we can. We're going to hold on. We're going to wait, be patient, turn in. 3rd gear, all the power, all the track. And that's a lap here at Laguna Seca.
Well, that's a great look at what you can do around WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca when you have 670 plus horsepower at your disposal, driving one of these incredible Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo machines, debuted at Road Atlanta this year, the new Evo package. There is your overall pole sitter, Cooper McNeil, a 126.303, a very fast lap. That's his 10th straight pole. And, of course, he ran coming in. He had 8 straight wins, got his 9th pole yesterday, 9th fast lap, but had a very rare mechanical issue during the race, didn't get his 9th straight win, so he wants to add that one to the docket today. Once again, 3 different category of drivers will be competing. All of the cars are the same, that glorious 488 Challenge Evo, but there's the top class, the Trofeo Pirelli class. It's for the drivers that are considered to be the most experienced or have the best pace and racecraft. Then you've got the AM component of Trofeo Pirelli, which just means they're the drivers that are close on the cusp, but not quite ready for that top step. And then there's the Coppa Shell category, or division, if you will, that also has an AM component. But that group is so well subscribed, they'll be running their own race coming up in just a little bit. So the Coppa Shell category drivers will be starting behind the 2 classes of Trofeo Pirelli. So that is, the stage is set, and I think we are ready to officially get this one underway. Katie?
Yes, I think you're right, Greg. It's time for those famous words. Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
And the command has been given, and shortly after everybody fires up, the grid will start to clear, and we'll be ready to go. Again, 30 minutes for these 3 different divisions to go racing. And they put on quite a show yesterday, and looking forward to how that is going to play out here. And, of course, there are some points battles to be considering. And when I say points battles, I'm talking some incredibly close points battles. For instance, in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category, Jean-Claude Sada has a 6-point lead over Dave Musial, who you got that great ride with. Only 5 points behind him is Jason McCarthy, so incredibly close there. Then you go back to the Coppa Shell category. How about this being for close? Kevin Milstein, 1-point lead over Jim Booth, and Jim has now a 12-point lead over Brad Horstman. However, he's only 6 points clear of Jay Schreibman, so some incredibly close racing. And the key for Kevin Milstein, in the qualifying session this morning, he had an off at the exit of the corkscrew and just tapped the wall, but it was hard enough to damage. I believe it was the left front corner of that car, and as a result, he will be starting at the back of the field in his T car, so he has work to do today to get by some very quick competitors up front. And the official pace and safety vehicle of the Ferrari Challenge, that glorious F8 Tributo, is leading the field away on their formation and pace lap. When they come around, we will be going green. There you see up at the front end that F8 Tributo, which is the next evolution, if you will, of the 488 street car. And it is an amazing piece of motoring artistry and performance. Ferrari able to combine those two like nobody else. Let's take a look at our starting lineup. Overall pole, Cooper McNeil for Ferrari Westlake on the inside of row 1, joined by Jordan Workman, Ferrari of Central Florida. Row 2, Dave Musial, Ferrari Lake Forest, and John McGrew, Ferrari of Long Island. Row number 3, Brent Holden, Ferrari of Newport Beach, and Ross West, yesterday's winner, Boardwalk Ferrari. Row number 4, Joseph Rubo, Ferrari of Long Island, and Jean-Claude Sada, Boardwalk Ferrari. Row number 5, Jason McCarthy, Wide World Ferrari, and Brad Horstman, Foreign Cars Italia. Row number 6, Eric Marsden for Ferrari Westlake, Jay Schreiben, Colley, Ferrari of Detroit. Row number 7, Jim Booth, Ferrari of Atlanta, and Rich Beck, Ron Tonkin, Gran Turismo. And in row 8, Joe Sposato for Ferrari of Beverly Hills, and Kevin Milstein, as I said, starting at the very back of the field. He had a quick lap going and was in a position to start up in the top 2, but then had that off, pushing for that last spot. He was sitting second, and you might ask, why push so hard? Well, there's a point for pole, and he's in a real points battle here, so that was his motivation as we watch Cooper McNeil leading this field down the hill. Cooper on the overall pole, Dave Musial on the Trofeo Pirelli AM pole, starting inside of that second row, joined by John McGrew. And then we talked about it, Brad Horstman in that number 105 Foreign Cars Italia entry. At the second group, he is starting pole for the Coppa Shell class. And I think a really remarkable qualifying run by the 126 of Eric Marsden in that category. And the F8 Tributo, lights are out. It has made its way down into pit lane. Cooper McNeil bringing the field up, aggressively working the brakes, getting a last bit of heat into the brakes and tires before the run down this straight into the Andretti hairpin. Once again, 30 minutes, fierce competition unfolding here in the second race of round 5 of the championship. We are green. Cooper McNeil leads the field down into turn 1, up on his shoulder. Young Jordan Workman, 21 years of age. His first season of racing anything, floats just a little wide, and Dave Musial tracks out, and Workman had to take a little bit of evasive, and Musial has now slipped through into the second overall spot. Meanwhile, the start for Coppa Shell. Horstman from that pole position leads down into turn 1, and he's protecting to the inside, knowing that there are some hungry drivers right behind him wanting to work their way around and through. Looks like a great start maybe by Jay Schreiben, who slotted up into the second spot, sneaking by Eric Marsden, so great run there. Cooper McNeil already starting to draw away, but what a start by Dave Musial as he has gone to second overall, leading in Trofeo Pirelli AM. There he is. And then right behind him, I think, is John McGrew. So Jordan Workman, when he got just squeezed a little bit on the exit of turn 2, heading up into 3. Yep, ended up dropping from second to 4th in the overall category right now. And I'll tell you, for John McGrew, who early in the race yesterday had something break, it looked like, going through the corkscrew, and he really hit that compression at the bottom. did a great job in qualifying to put himself outside of the front row in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. And when Musial snuck underneath Workman and got Workman loosened up a little bit, McGrew shot through. Then there's Workman right there, Jordan in that black Ferrari with the red highlights. And then coming into view right behind him is Brent Holden, yesterday's not only Trofeo Pirelli AM winner, but overall race winner. And he was able to get a good jump here as well and runs right up there in the top 5 and right behind Jordan Workman. I believe right behind him is Ross West. Indeed it is. He was yesterday's Trofeo Pirelli class winner. And Horseman has built a little bit of an advantage right now over Jay Schreibman. There's Jay in that red Ferrari with that white nose. Then it's Marsden behind him. Then Jim Booth, yesterday's pole sitter and winner in that red Ferrari with the golden arches on it. He is a McDonald's franchisee owner, has a number of franchises, does very well with that. You can see that lead group of 4 is broken clear just a little bit here. There's a look at Eric Marsden. And again, I think his qualifying run, when you look at what he did yesterday in his first start, qualified 5th, drove a very smart race in 5th, but learned a ton, came out this morning in qualifying and laid down an absolutely brilliant lap, putting him into the 2nd spot in qualifying. And Katie talked about it, the battle that he was involved with last year with Horseman and Schreibman. Well, they're at it again, and it is a great thing to see. And now this year going to be joined by Jim Booth. But for Eric to come in after not having any races this year in this category at all, to do what he did, I think was pretty remarkable. There's a look at yesterday's winner, Jim Booth. He's closing in just a little bit. There is Holden. Boy, is he close right now to the back of Jordan Workman. Again, this is 2 different categories of driver, but for the overall 4th spot right now, Brent looking to use all the track he can to get as straight of a line down into the corkscrew, hoping he could do an out-braking maneuver, but it didn't work. And to be honest with you, it also was a fairly effective defensive move to keep that red Ferrari of West behind him. And then a little bit behind this group, you've got Joe Rubo. There's a look at John McGrew. Hasn't made many starts. This is only his 3rd event. So coming in here, he had 4 starts on the season, but 2 of them were wins. He just came out of the box firing on every cylinder and has been really, really quick. Had an off day yesterday, just didn't qualify as well as he normally would, then pushing during the race. Had that little issue over in the corkscrew, but he was able to rebound this morning with a wonderful qualifying run, although Jordan Workman is really starting to heap some pressure on. And McGrew had to turn in a bit early there for 5 to defend on Jordan, and that slowed them both up. And here comes Holden, gets a nice run as well. Very tough to be able to do anything through turn 6. Oh, and McGrew drops that right rear in a big save, had a big wiggle and held on to it. And now Holden thought about, as Workman had to check up just a little bit in case it got away from McGrew. Thought about doing something, and he couldn't get that to work. So having some great battling here, but as we watch these guys, talking about John McGrew, when you have an issue like he had, to rebound the way he did, that just shows obviously some real ability, Katie, to focus.
Absolutely, and at a track like this is one of those tracks that does require focus. You are basically on it the whole time, so to be able to recover and maintain while you're being chased is something impressive. Yeah,
this track is one of the more technical tracks, one because of the layout constantly, because it's absolutely flat, and there's absolutely no banking of any type, camber as they call it, to help you a little bit. So it's all down to the mechanical grip of the car and the grip that the aerodynamic downforce gives you. And You've got to float good speed through there. Then here is that turn 5. Carry everything you can because you start a serious climb up toward the corkscrew. It's the 28 of Joe Rubo as he finds himself right now sitting in the 7th spot overall, but with a very persistent Jason McCarthy, who is now 4th in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category, right behind him.
Well, you got to imagine Jason McCarthy, after a couple of offs here and a couple of difficulties and challenges he has faced, you got to imagine there's a little fire under him to perform.
I would certainly think so. And I mean, he went around in the early going here, the points leader, Jean-Claude Sada, and Jason was able to sneak underneath him and move up into that 4th spot. Love this shot here from the drone as it works down through turn 10. It's spectacular.
Oh, Greg, I was just thinking, wow, what a shot that is. It shows the speed and the precision and just the wow factor of these cars.
Yeah, they are remarkable. The performance that they create and give to a driver to see if they can extract everything out of it is just amazing what they can do. And then you get into some battling on a track as tricky as this one. And, you know, the real drivers, they love a track like this because it's where they can make a difference, you know. A track that's just got tons of grip and you got cars with good downforce, not quite as challenging for some of these drivers. The ones who love this place, they're the ones they just like to get up on the wheel and try and make a difference here and there. And, you know, we chatted a little bit about Brent Holden right there, who won this yesterday overall, not just his class, but overall, talking about track knowledge. A track that's this tricky, the more laps you have, you learn those little intimate secrets that the track offers that you can exploit that others may not know.
You know, that was actually something I was thinking about, even thinking about Cooper McNeil, a guy who is obviously very, has had so much seat time, not only here, but elsewhere. And this track is even challenging for him in certain parts, right? In talking with him, it was turn 9. Other guys, it's turn 6, the corkscrew, of course. It is interesting how this is such a driver's track, and even the best drivers have challenges.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely they do, you know. Many years ago, I was announcing a Trans Am race, and Tommy Kendall put his car on pole at Road Atlanta, which isn't a very long track, so usually the margins are minuscule, and he was on pole by well over half a second over an incredible field. And I asked him, how did you do that? And his answer surprised me, but then you think about it, it made sense. He said, I just made a few less mistakes than everybody else. Because there is no such thing as a perfect lap. No matter how good you are, there's always someplace that maybe you could have carried a little bit more speed, braked a little later or whatever. And so even the really top flight drivers like you're alluding to, they're always chasing that.
Well, we're seeing Jay Schreibman there, and he's sitting right behind Brad Horstman. And I was having a conversation with Brad about that particular thing that you're mentioning of less mistakes. And he said a driver's never necessarily satisfied with their performance because they know every single time there's something they could have done a little better. He actually compared it to golfing and said, you know, every time you come off the course, you're like, man, if I had done this or done that. And that made a whole lot of sense to me, that driver's mindset.
You're absolutely right. That's the absolute key, and you always chase that perfect lap. It's never there, but you always go after it. And for Horstman, he has just put together a remarkable opening series of laps here. He has opened up almost a 3-second lead over Jay Schreibman right now, and on the way has set fast lap of the race at a 1:30.158 for that Coppa Shell class. And that is important, not just for bragging rights, but also because there's a point for fast lap that you can get as well. So that's really, really crucial as you look at Cooper McNeil, who right now leads overall and has overall fast lap at a 1:27.531 second lap. And he's gone. He has opened up a massive lead. And after what happened yesterday, just an incredibly rare mechanical issue here, we knew he was going to light the fuse early and go. And we're about, well, a third of the way through the race, and he's got a 10-second lead over Musial.
You know, I was talking to him about the rest of the field earlier, and just saying, you know, what is it about these guys that really makes them competitive? And he said it's so interesting because so many of them have different strengths, and specifically Jordan Workman was one of the conversation pieces of just how young he is, how hungry he is, and knows that Cooper knows that he is the target for that guy. And in talking to Jordan about that, it would be a victory to finish second. If he finished second behind Cooper McNeil, it would be a victory.
Well, guess what? That's where he runs right now. He's 4th overall, but he's second of the 2 races at Indianapolis. But I'll tell you, I think he'd be real pleased to be able to pull that off here as we are watching John McGrew, the first car, the red Ferrari with that white top. That is McGrew, chased by Workman. in the 2 different driver categories, but that's 3rd, 4th overall. Then right behind them, the 25 is West, who won Trofeo Pirelli yesterday, and then Joe Rubo. But what a great slow-mo shot through that very sort of tightrope walk that you do through turn 3. Oh, Holden, or Rubo, excuse me, showing the nose. That was Holden taking a look, but look, he got down to the inside there and then got pinched, had to get out of it, and it just completely nulled his momentum. And look at the margin that immediately appears, and that's what happens when your momentum is stopped. Oh, and McGrew runs way wide, and there's going to be a touch. McGrew, a huge save. He didn't know, obviously, that Holden was trying that move, and again Holden comes down the inside. McGrew just shuts the door. That is hard-nosed racing, but when McGrew got in wide, Workman pounced immediately, and the number 14 of Holden thought, well, maybe I can get something done here, and then McGrew recovered, I think a little quicker than Brent thought, squared up and came across, and there was the touch. The concern there is, did it damage any of the aerodynamics on the car, or did it do anything to a tire? And you can see McGrew now, he's just trying to recover a bit, and Holden is antsy.
Yes, he is. You can tell he's right up on that rear. And interestingly enough, you're watching Workman too, trying to figure out, I think it's Workman there, that trying to figure out when he can get around them. This track is so difficult to pass on, and these drivers are being racy. And you can see, whoa, you can see that right there.
Oh, somebody having a bit of a moment in the, that is 61 of points leader, Jean-Claude Sada has had it off, and it up in the approach to the corkscrew, and he has come to a stop up there. And usually that's, and it's pure speculation, didn't see it, just heard it, but he may have tried an overtake and there may have been a touch, or you can just get in a little bit too hot sometimes. And we go back to this little scrap here. McGrew now trying to fend off Holden as he recovers, then West, then Rubo. But Workman now has managed to, after getting around, McGrew there is now 3rd overall, still 2nd to McNeil. And Musial right now has a pretty sizable little margin back to John McGrew as the inevitable full course yellow comes out for Sada's car parked up at the corkscrew. And of course that means that for Cooper, that huge margin he built up will evaporate. I'm sure he's confident he can establish a little bit of a margin again and stay up there. But what this is going to do is present some real opportunities here. One would be for Jason McCarthy, who is right with Rubo at this stage, but if everything compresses here and he can sneak through, then he can get up and start racing perhaps Holden and McGrew for Trofeo Pirelli Am podium positions here. And about a 3-second margin from Horseman to Schreibman. That's going to close up. Arson is still right there. And Booth, they are so close, and close in times as well right now. And Kevin Milstein, Katie, started dead last in this group, has worked his way up to 5th, and we talked about it. He's the point leader, and by very little after yesterday's race, he had a 1-point lead, and it's crucial for him to get every possible point he can, and he has moved up. Here's a replay here of when McGrew ran wide, and right here I think Holden thought, okay, I'm good, and then McGrew gathered it up, turned down, and just that touch. And the concern is where that was if he broke maybe that left rear rim on McGrew's car, if he hit a valve stem and cut that Pirelli P0. But it looks like he was fine and got away with it and just went right back into deep attack mode down through the corkscrew. Watch here. I think there's Sada. And so, boy, it got away from him and he got to the outside. And it sounds like he may have grazed the barrier. So we're under caution, and they're going to have to effect the cleanup and take care of Jean-Claude Sada's machine. So everybody gets a little bit of respite here. Some drivers not pleased about that. They had nice margins. Others welcome it because they can sort of regroup and go on the attack.
I think it's going to be interesting to see, watching closely what McGrew and Holden do. I think obviously there's a little anxiety, a little anxiousness between those two. You can see that. And then you have Workman who's muscling his way. And of course, he finally got around them and was able to get some, hopefully, well, not clean air necessarily now, but he did have a little something there.
Well, it's going to be interesting for Workman here because his fast lap is right on the same pace as Dave Musial. Musial sits 2nd overall, leads in the Trofeo Pirelli Am category. Workman's is within a tenth of his best lap. And so if Jordan is able to figure a way to sneak through on Musial here, then he can try and follow McNeil for a little bit. That's how you learn. You know, you get behind a driver like McNeil, and if you can say, oh, okay, he's going a little, his turn-in's a little different here, or he's picking the throttle up a little bit differently here, you can try and mirror that. And then at the end of this race, and every race for Jordan is a huge learning experience, obviously. This is his first season of really racing. And they saw immediately that raw speed that he had, and then watched him and evaluated him and said, yeah, I think you're going to be up in that Trofeo Pirelli class.
And interesting, too, about Jordan, you know, he had actually raced in sim racing this race 3 or 4 times, and that was how he really got familiar with this track. He then had a little bit of testing, but coming here this weekend, I mean, that was him laying eyes on it, getting in this car and going for it. But it's interesting, just the generation differences there, maybe about a year, not quite a year, you know, or a decade younger than Cooper, but the differences with that sim racing and how that can make a big difference in someone's career.
Well, a lot of drivers use those sim races when they're coming to an unfamiliar track. What it does is you don't have to waste time once you get to the track learning which way it goes.
Totally.
You know what this turn is. Okay, there's going to be a hill, a little compression here. You get to the track and you still have to feel it for yourself and be able to hustle the car, but you can just focus on then learning the line, driving fast, and not having to figure out, okay, now is this next turn to the left, to the right, and it just speeds up that learning process big time. And as I've said before, Jordan sure seems to me to be a sponge.
Yeah.
Because he just absorbs that information. And as a young driver, rookie in his first season, you're going to expect to see the odd mistake, but I've never seen him make the same one twice.
That's a very, very, very valid point. Adding to Dave Musial, remember in qualifying, he was on pole. His son 2.0 is on pole. He told me that he has confidence that today's the day that it'll be a father-son duo on top of the box. And you can obviously see, yesterday he felt slightly disappointed. He missed out on that opportunity, qualifying second and finishing second as well.
Absolutely, but he's got that opportunity here as he leads and has that buffer in that Trofeo Pirelli AM category. And then Coppa, when this one gets going again, Horseman had opened up a little bit of a margin and had put together that fast lap in the class. But Schreibman, Jay's MO last year when he first came in and was racing in the Coppa AM category was on occasion his first weekend, or his first race of the weekend, he put it on pole, but then have an issue in the race of some sort. Then the next day he'd come steaming back and podium or win. And, we'll see here. He had, wasn't quite where he wanted to be yesterday, but now second, and he's got.
Knowing that how those 3 race, because last year they were the trio racing for the championship in Coppa Am, they know what to expect with these guys just a little bit.
And that's important. You know, you get into battles with a driver you haven't raced before, you tend to give them that little more of a margin because you don't exactly know. Here you've got the confidence to go with it. And you were talking about Milstein, and in the T car, well, Scuderia Cava is the race team that Ferrari of San Diego uses, and they've been doing this for a long time. And it's amazing with these cars. They're all identical, and you get a really good team like that, they can do the repeatability in a setup from one car to the other one. So the driver gets in and goes, yep, this feels really right about where I like it. And then you get a driver of Kevin's ability, and he's able to haul it up from the back of the field up into the top 5 and be in a position to go. Good look there at Joe Rubo, Ferrari of Long Island, sitting in the 4th spot, and ended up with a 3rd place yesterday. And right now sits in 4th, so he'd like to figure out a way to get around that red Ferrari right in front of him. That's a battle for position. And I think the problem for him is Jason McCarthy is up on the wheel today, and that's that red Ferrari right behind him. And you find that so often in this. You want to attack the guy in front, but you've got to be mindful because somebody behind you is attacking as well. And if you leave an opening, they're going to go.
Yeah, there's no such thing really as being the rabbit and being chased and chasing at this point, right? Because they're all incrementally, whether it be in their own class or just fighting for the overall position. There's a lot of chasing happening in this.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Unless you're Cooper, then you're just a rabbit at this point.
Yep, you're up front, and he's just got speed here, no question. As he is right up behind that beautiful F8 Tributo. Again, boy, we're lucky to have that as the official safety and pace vehicle of the championship. Look there once again at Jordan Workman, who's getting ready and trying to plot what his plan is going to be to try and slip through on Dave Musial. And again, look at Musial's car, that awesome graphics package, the Joker, the homage to Heath Ledger, and how he played the Joker here. That's something that Musial has become known for, liking really good he's one of the great characters in the paddock, and just a treat. Boy, did he give us a great onboard lap to look at as well.
No doubt about it. And you know, one thing to compare, you're talking about Jordan Workman and kind of planning out the strategy. This is where experience does pay, right? He's up against Musial, who's been in 3 seasons strong with a Ferrari Challenge, and of course, then behind him is or McGrew, who has been there for 3 seasons, and Dave Musial, who has been for 5 seasons. And Jordan here is learning how to, get these restarts down and what he should do from a strategy standpoint. And that's something that, is maybe forgotten sometimes, that goes into these kinds of races and these restarts.
It's all about strategy, absolutely. And here you see Joe Sposato in that red Ferrari, chased by Rich Beck. Ferrari of Beverly Hills for Sposato, and Ron Tonkin Gran Turismo by Rich Beck. These two guys have been good supporters of this championship for a while. Rich, actually, when he runs, his son Trevor has done some racing in Ferrari Challenge as well, in the 458 Challenge. And Rich and Vital Speed, their family team, have actually done some GT3 racing in a Ferrari 488 GT3 machine. And Joe Sposato, he has been driving and racing for a long time. He's in the gentleman's category. And back in the era of kart for Indy cars, we're talking a while back, he was a pro Formula Atlantic racer, did a season of kart racing with Dick Simon Racing, and then life took over and things happened, and he still had that taste. And Joe is back behind the wheel, and we are so lucky for it. And we are going back to green, and immediately Cooper McNeil gets a little bit of a jump. You see him doing that bob and weave. He's just really making sure now at speed that he can clean those Pirelli P0s up. Ooh, little lockup as he goes in. Man, was he deep on the binders there. And you can see Musial just tracking perfectly. Jordan arcing a little bit too much in. And I think that, and a big wiggle there. And again, Holden now under attack. That's Ross West putting the pressure on here. We are at 5 minutes, a little over 5 minutes left. So it is go time. If you're going to do anything, you need to do it in a hurry here. There's that run through turn 4. Now up the hill we go. There's McGrew. Oh, missed that apex. You saw that little wiggle coming in, and he knew it, so he tried to just sort of ease left just a little bit to keep Holden from being able to attack too much. That, of course, is going to allow West to just stick right there as well. Rubo behind them, but boy, right behind Rubo, McCarthy is in attack mode as well here. Watch them down through the corkscrew. Right up behind, there comes Rubo, and then McCarthy incredibly close. But this Holden McGrew battle, this is for second in Trofeo Pirelli. Oh, and it took a little while for McGrew to get back to the left side here. Holden wanted to do something, but he ended up a little wide. Now he's going to try and just drive down the inside of McGrew, but for Holden, he was a little wide in the apex in 10, and that didn't allow him to maximize his run through there. Boy, a lot of activity, and that's allowed Rubo and McCarthy to get right on their 6. And here's this battle unfolding now. Horseman, Schreibman, Marston, and there's Kevin Milstein, your points leader, but only by 1. Oh, huge moment going down into the hairpin. I think that was Jay Schreibman, and something, he just got away from him big time. I don't know if he tried to get down underneath. Horseman took a run, and it got away from him, but he's over there. That's that huge runoff down at the exit. Watch it here. There goes Workman, so it should be coming up in just a minute. Here comes that group. Well, let's see. There is Holden right now. Holden has been able to sneak through on McGrew.
That must have felt good for him
Oh,
to get around that one.
Absolutely, and I really wonder a little bit. Look at this move, as McCarthy has not only gone by on Rubo, he was attacking on Ross West right there as well. Jason McCarthy being ultra opportunistic. What I was going to get back to was I wonder if that little bit of contact in the Andretti hairpin between Holden and McGrew on that one lap if that contact, it may have knocked the toe out on the back of McGrew's car, because that car just doesn't look real happy at this stage.
That's a really good way to put that. It does. It looks like he's fighting it a little bit there. But, man, going back to McCarthy, you are so right. When you started this thing saying that he is on attack mode, that guy is on attack mode right now, sitting 7th in the overall.
Yeah, he is going after it. It's McNeil has that margin built up a little again. Oh, and look at that. There was McCarthy again trying to get down underneath Ross Schuest. Ross, a little bit of a wiggle on throttle. And when you're a pursuing driver and you see the guy in front of you, that tail wagging just a little bit, you know he's on the edge, and it just makes you want to just push even more and try and sneak through. In Coppa Shell, Horseman, Marston, but with that moment by Schreibman, Booth has now gone through and picked up 3rd, and Milstein is up into 4th, and look at this move as Schuest trying to get down underneath McGrew, and this is going to give Rubo a big head of steam up into turn 6, but he knew there was nowhere to go. If he got his nose inside, he was probably going to get chopped. Sometimes that's the best thing a driver can have, is patience and the will to run away and fight another day, or another lap, as it were.
But that hard thing you mentioned, the keyword patience, and patience for drivers is something else.
Yeah, it's anathema, isn't it? It's not what you think a race driver would be all about here. There is your leader in Coppa Shell, Horseman, Marston. What an impressive run he's put together here. He's within about a 1.5 seconds of Horseman. And then now Booth up into that 3rd spot. There comes Booth. You can always see that car with those golden arches, and then behind him is Milstein. As we have begun our final lap, Cooper McNeil has picked up the white flag.
Those golden arches there with Jim Booth. He just was, it was such a joy to be around him after his pole yesterday and his win. He just was so thrilled, not only for the win and the pole position, but just to be able to be running around here, and it was really a special moment for sure.
Yeah, just great. Look at this. Side by side is again Schuest trying to figure a way through on what might well be a slightly wounded John McGrew. And McGrew, an absolutely brilliant defense. That's something you have to deal with sometimes when something happens and the car's not quite right. Without blocking and being real blatant, you have to defend a little bit. And that can mean turning in a little early. And then where does Schuest want to try and pass? Well, put your car right there and not let him get a run. And he does it again brilliantly. What a scrap this is.
I would
5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th overall. Sorry.
No, I would be curious to know how tired McGrew is after this. If this is maybe not one of the most tiring races he's had in probably quite some time.
Oh, yeah. When you're fighting something that's not working well, mentally it can drain you, let alone the physical nature of it. But here comes Cooper McNeil, last turn. And while his perfect season is not going to happen, he's perfect in most of the categories now. And he adds a remarkable 9th win in 10 starts and a 10th straight fast lap. Wow, and that Ferrari Westlake Scuderia Corsa machine. And look at this late move right at the end. And that was McCarthy trying to get down underneath Schuest. And boy, McGrew defended on McCarthy, and it allowed Schuest to sweep right around the outside. And for Jason McCarthy, he actually lost a spot, as well as Rubo, using that little bit of momentum, was able to go through. What an unbelievable last corner sequence for that group. McCarthy attacking, but wow, we've seen some racing today.
That, my friend, was some racing.
Oh, that was
good.
absolutely great. And sure appreciate you popping up here and spending some time here, but I know you've got other stuff you're going to be working on.
I'm going to go right back down to the pits. I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine around these parts and that blue sky. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. You bet. Thanks again. There's Horseman getting that win in the Coppa Shell category. Great job for him. First win on the year, and it's his 6th podium. And Eric Marsden, in only his 2nd race of the season, on the podium with a strong 2nd place. Superb. And then for Jim Booth, his win yesterday and another podium today. He is going to, I believe, he should take the lead away from Kevin Milstein in the points. Not by much. Horseman got that point for fast lap, and he'll get the points for win. So he's trimming that margin down. He should be a close 3rd to Milstein, who'll be very close to Booth in the points when we head to Sebring for the next round of the championship. Again, McNeil with the win, Workman 2nd, and Ross Schuest 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli, with Dave Musial getting the win and 2nd overall in Trofeo Pirelli Am over Brent Holden to go with his win and overall win yesterday. And then John McGrew, tell you what a defense he had to mount after that little bit of contact in the number 23. Just a brilliant job for Ferrari of Long Island. Jason McCarthy up on that wheel big time late in the going, just couldn't figure out a way through. And then Jean-Claude Sada having his issue in the Boardwalk Ferrari up there in the corkscrew area, and Schreibman, of course, having that off late in the race down into the Andretti hairpin. But wow. Sure had some dynamics unfolding in this one, didn't we? Let's take a look here at the provisional results for this combined group. Well, look for Trofeo Pirelli to start with, and it's Cooper McNeil over Jordan Workman, Ross Chouest third, and Joseph Rubo in fourth. Of course, Chouest winning yesterday, so keeping his podium run alive here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Well done. Taking a look now at the Trofeo Pirelli AM category, Dave Musial getting the big win he was looking for on the weekend after finishing second overall yesterday. Brent Holden getting second today, fourth overall after winning overall yesterday. And then John McGrew, as I said, what a defense he had to mount here, and what a comeback from his problems early in the race yesterday to podium today. Jason McCarthy, racy as always there in fourth, and then Jean-Claude Sada having that issue up in the corkscrew. And then we go to the Coppa Shell category, and look at that margin of victory. Horseman over Marston, 0.8 of a second, incredibly close. Then Booth right there as well. Milstein from last up into fourth, and Joe Sposato ending up in the top five. I tell you, this man is evergreen. He just continues to produce over decades. It's impressive. Jay Schreibman, and then Rich Beck unfortunately had some problems and was down a couple of laps in the race. And he still will get credited. He did finish, so he will get credited with seventh. And there come the class podium finishers down into the staging area. And with that, let's go back, take a look at some of the highlights from what was a very entertaining race. At the green, Cooper McNeil jumps into the lead. Jordan Workman had his nose up along the outside, but couldn't quite get it done. And a couple of guys, John McGrew having a little bit of a moment going through turn 6. And then McGrew running way wide here. Workman dives underneath. Holden thinks I can do it too. And then McGrew recovers. That must have knocked the toe out of McGrew's car because he was in pure defense mode. As again, Holden came up the inside. As we came up to the green after the yellow for Sada, Cooper McNeil able to ease away again once again, but a huge battle beginning to unfold. Then Schreibman had that off down into the Andretti hairpin. And then this move here, up to the inside goes McCarthy. He's not quite able to get it done. Little bit of a touch there, and everybody goes through. At the end, it was Cooper winning in Trofeo Pirelli and getting his 9th win of the championship season. Dave Musial winning in Trofeo Pirelli AM. And then in Coppa Shell, Brad Horseman bringing the win home there as well. And boy, every one of the categories had some fantastic racing in it and some serious cut and thrust racing to boot. And now let's take a look as we are nearing the end of this championship season. Points are everything. In the Trofeo Pirelli category, Cooper McNeil with that amazing run of 8 straight wins coming in, adding a 9th, even with his issues yesterday. As you can see, has a sizable point lead, 58 points at this stage. But Ross Chouest has a 13-point lead over Joe Rubo, then Workman, and then a few drivers that weren't able to make it to this round of the championship, a little bit farther back of the order. But for Cooper McNeil, trying to go for a 3rd straight Trofeo Pirelli championship. Let's take a look now at the Trofeo Pirelli AM category. Look at those margins, folks. Really close here. Dave Musial now up by 5 over Jean-Claude Sada. Then Jason McCarthy right in the hunt, only 9 back. Then a little bit more of a margin to Brent Holden and John McGrew and the rest of the field. But if Holden keeps racing the way he is at Sebring, he's going to be in with a shot at this as well. Nobody up front in that trio. They can't afford to have one bobble or no point score. So Brent will be right in that mix as well. And now let's take a look at the points in Coppa Shell. And again, it's just amazing how close this is. It was a point coming in. It's a point now, just with a change in who leads. Booth now up by 1 over Kevin Milstein. Brad Horseman is third, only 4 points back. And then Schreiben, with that late off here, lost a few points and has dropped down just a bit. But still, that is an incredibly close points battle with essentially now 4 races to go. 2 at Sebring and then 2 at Misano before the actual finale Mondiale unfolds. But Cooper McNeil at WeatherTech Raceway takes his Ferrari to his 9th win of the season in the Trofeo Pirelli category, and compelling racing in all 3 classes here in this 5th round of the championship over both days. For such a great place to be able to be at. For Katie Osborne, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you from Sebring.